All right, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, almost a Thursday, September 16th. You're here with your Mind, Body, Soldier tribe, Linda and Michelle. And today we are talking about Lord, Keep Me in the Center of Your Will from The Power of a Praying Woman by Stormy O'Martian. And what I thought was so cool about this chapter was Stormy uses a strategy that I teach often called Had We Not. And it's a way of looking back to change your perception or, the impact of trauma or different things, that we can have a trauma effect without experiencing trauma, that the missed trauma or the possibility of trauma can create PTSD and trauma responses, things like that. For instance, if you see a really bad car wreck, that can create trauma, especially if it was like two ahead of you and you think, wow, had I not been back here, I would have, been in that wreck. The had I not is the way to create that gratitude feeling. But sometimes we look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, that could have been me instead of had I not. It all depends on how you look at it. So of course I love that. And she was talking about how after they had moved, that the Lord called upon them to move from the home and the community and the place that they loved and where they raised their children and all of that, to move cross country to somewhere where they really didn't want to be. But they listened and they obeyed. And shortly after they moved, and the area where they lived had been hit by a massive earthquake, and it destroyed the home that they had lived in only a short time before. And said, had we not listened to God and moved, we could have died. We could have been killed. We could have been in that rubble, and all of that. We would have lost our homes. But instead of that, we listened, even though we didn't want to, and we packed up and moved. And because of that, we're safe. So it's just a good strategy, I think, for looking at possible trauma responses or trauma actions in a different way. Is had I not, finding the gratitude and feeling thankful that you made the decisions that you did. So there's my take on it. Michelle, what do you think about this chapter?
I like that, Linda. As you were talking, it reminded me of when I was driving down from Flagstaff to Phoenix yesterday, and my tire pressure light came on, but really there was nothing wrong with my tire pressure. Well, I think all of them were just like slightly low, ended up being the problem. But I was like, oh man, like I'm driving down the mountain, like what is happening? So I pulled over and took the time to check all the pressures and all of that. But made me think I didn't get to see anything that could have been involved in. It made me think like, okay, God, like by making me pause in this moment, like what are you saving me from right now? I just had this feeling that there's like, if I had kept going, there would have been something else that was more dangerous than what I went through. So that's just from the other day. But this chapter, what spoke to me the most was when she's talking about when we walk in the will of God, we have safety, but it's not always easy. And I think that's an important thing for us to remember, is that this line I underlined in here, God uses the trouble you have to perfect you. And so everything we go through, he uses to refine us and teach us stuff, and really to strengthen us in certain ways to be able to handle other things that he knows we will go through in the future. So there's always something that we can grow from in every situation. And she always also talks about in here, if you're not being stretched or feeling uncomfortable in your journey and walking in the will of God, then she questions if we actually are, right? Because there's always, in order to grow, we have to be uncomfortable sometimes. That's just the way it is. Because a lot of times our discomfort comes from situations where we aren't familiar with something, or we don't know how to handle a situation. We're learning those skills through going through those experiences. And so that growth, that learning feels a little uncomfortable. So it's important for us to learn how to embrace that for ourselves and comfortable feeling comfortable.
I definitely agree that, we can't have pain without pleasure, or pleasure without pain, and, all of that, and loss without gain. You have to be able to feel one in order to know the other, and vice versa. And that, I don't remember why, I do know why, but as I was reading this, two things came to mind, is that the difference between reluctance and hesitation. Obviously, I think they can exist independently. They're not opposites, but they kind of are in some way, well, first, let me ask you, what do you feel like the difference is between reluctance and hesitation? If I say, Michelle, you seem kind of reluctant, or Michelle, you seem like you're a little hesitant.
That's a good question. I've never compared those two for myself. For me, when I think of reluctant, it's I don't like it, but I'm doing it anyway. And hesitant is like I'm holding myself back, like I'm not throwing myself completely in, or I'm like pausing of taking action. That's what I think of.
That when we are reluctant to do something, it's generally a source, it's because of worry about the unknown. It's like, I'm reluctant to take action because what if? We're worried about something that hasn't happened. As where I'm hesitant generally because of something that is right now. Usually it's like, oh, well, I'm hesitant to go and take a nap because I'm waiting on a phone call, right? I'm reluctant to go take a nap because what if I miss the phone call? Okay? So it's just a little bit of a difference. And reluctance, I think, is when we question that instruction from God, because we're like, really? Because what if I do that and then this happens? But the hesitation isn't always a bad thing, because sometimes we have situations right here, right now, that we need to resolve in order to take that step forward. God may be calling me to pack up and move, but I'm hesitant to make that decision because the market's going to fall today, or some crap like that. Who knows? It's just stepping back. The hesitation gives us a chance to step back and look and make sure that everything is in line for the step that we need to take, not to determine whether or not I'm going to take this step. If that makes sense. All right. And that's just my 2 cents on it. Hesitation and reluctance,
I like that. That was a very good explanation.
I'm fairly set, not in my ways. I'm set in my decisions, and often people seem to sometimes say, oh, well, you're so stubborn. No, if somebody wants me to do something, usually right then in that moment, you get an answer, regardless of what it is. And if I'm hesitant, it's only because there's something right here, right now, that might be getting in the way of me saying yes or no, or whatever the case is, right? But if you rarely ever get reluctance out of me, it's either nope or, let me make sure I can. So, I think it's one of the sources of difficulty in decision making. People who tell me that they have a hard time making decisions, immediately I know there's a factor of reluctance, and it's usually worry about the what ifs. So,
yeah, I could see that for sure.
give it to God.
Do you see that often with people who struggle with anxiety specifically?
Oh, every day. I mean, simply anxiety is just fear. It's fear of, and there's fear and control. It's fear of something that I can't control. Or, well, that's basically it. That just sums it up. I'm afraid
Yeah,
of something that I can't control.
that's very interesting. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, how about say a little prayer?
Sounds good.
All right, bow your head. Dear Lord, I pray you will fill me with the knowledge of your will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Help me to walk in a worthy manner, fully pleasing to you, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of your ways. Guide me in every step, lead me in your righteousness, and make your way straight before my face. As I draw close and walk in intimate relationship with you each day, I pray you will get me to where I need to go. Dear Heavenly Father, I am calling upon you as my healer again today, that I just need some guidance. I'm dealing with an injury that doesn't seem to be improving, but I know you've got a plan. I just am not sure that I'm on the right path. Something doesn't feel right. So I'm asking you to put that in front of my face and point me the direction that you need to go, that I need to go. I want to pray for all of my children today, making sure that they are taking precautions and staying healthy, doing what they need to do to watch out for themselves and their loved ones as things heat up on the West Coast. And I want to watch over my younger child today as he deals with his frustrations. And, he's made so many improvements that I just want you to reinforce that he's got this and he can keep heading in the right direction. All right, Michelle?
Good morning, Lord. Thank you again for another beautiful day that we get to be alive and breathing and joining together in community with you. I want to thank you for the temperatures starting to cool down in Arizona. We're not quite there yet, but it's so nice to be able to have a little bit of reprieve in the mornings and just to be outside and enjoying nature, such beauty that you created for us. I want to continue praying for my brother-in-law's mom as she's recovering from surgery. Please just bring her healing and peace throughout this process. I also want to pray for myself and just guiding my next steps, God, with my career and just in my life. Show me where you want me to be, what you want me to specifically be doing right now. And I also want to pray for myself and my relationship with Sean, that you can teach me to continue bettering my communication with him and my understanding of him as your son, God. And I just thank you for strengthening our relationship and continuing to build that foundation as we grow closer in our partnership and closer to you. And I want to pray for our women's retreat. We are getting so close, and I want to thank you for just bringing this small group of women together. I'm so excited for our time together and what you will make of it. So thank you for that. And I pray that you will keep us all healthy and safe as we travel and as we spend this time together in a couple weeks. We bring this all to your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you. Join us every day for life-changing discussions and a prayer. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we are out.